So this video is going out to all the Banjo-Kazooie fans out there, all the Rareware fans that grew up with Rareware in the 90s on the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64. Here we got Donkey Kong Country 3, which is a very underrated video game from 1996. Replaying this game, I noticed something really peculiar. This little section right here. To me, this looks like Spiral Mountain from Banjo-Kazooie. It's all here. You got the bridge, right? The bridge that Banjo can run over in Spiral Mountain. The yellow pathways. Here's the river, the blue river that is in Spiral Mountain. The yellow pathway. I mean, it's all there, you know? It's like this is Spiral Mountain before Spiral Mountain. It has that look to it. You got like these houses here, like this is like Banjo's house. And back here, this little hut right here is Banjo's house. Tents you can go to in this game, like this, the tent. That's like Humbo Wumba's tent in Banjo-Tooie. And it's also like Mumbo Jumbo's house, his many houses you see in Banjo-Kazooie. The tree back here, it has a creepy face as an entrance. You can see that? That's like the creepy face entrances you find in Gruntilda's castle, in all the doorways. Here it is right here in Donkey Kong Country 3. And plus, Banjo-Kazooie was in development originally for the Super Nintendo. It was different, but a bear eventually became part of it. And then also Banjo-Kazooie, when it jumped ship to the N64, it was in development in 1996 and 1997, and it was supposed to come out in 1997. And Donkey Kong Country 3 came out in 1996. So really, Banjo-Kazooie was in development the same time that Donkey Kong Country 3 was in development. Also, there's so much more in this game that is connections to Banjo-Kazooie. So, for instance, there's a lot of bears in this game. Let's go visit one of them. See? The bears in this game is exactly where they got Banjo from. Yes. Banjo is actually one of the bears that is from Donkey Kong Country, because Banjo is part of the same universe that Diddy Kong and Donkey Kong are from, because the instruction manual in Diddy Kong Racing explains that Diddy Kong became friends with Banjo the Bear and Conker the Squirrel and the other animal characters. So that means Banjo is part of the same world as Donkey Kong. So that means that Banjo hails from the northern Cremisphere, which is where this game takes place in Donkey Kong Country 3. Now, at the beginning of this video, I said this is a super underrated game. It's actually an extremely underrated game, one of the most underrated games from 1996. Another Banjo-Kazooie connection is the giant animal bosses that you face off against. They're pretty common in the Donkey Kong Country games. And if you guys remember that, right, especially in Banjo-Tooie, all the bosses are like the giant animals you face. Plus, Banjo and Kazooie, a boy and a girl teaming up together, that also comes from Donkey Kong Country 3, because this is Dixie Kong and Kiddy Kong. Kiddy Kong is a boy, and Dixie Kong is a girl. And Banjo's a boy, and Kazooie is a girl. So that also came from Donkey Kong Country 3. I just love how interactive the hub world map is in this game. It's one of the greatest interactive 2D hub maps in any video game, really. Which makes sense because it's such an improvement of the other hub maps in 2D gaming. Because it's pretty much the last one. This is 1996, everybody. It's quite an improvement over the Super Mario World one. In this game, you can drive around on vehicles and stuff. So in this game, there are such a thing as banana birds. They're like these magical creatures that are bananas, but also birds. I don't know how that makes any sense, but it doesn't matter because it's fantasy, you know. The Rareware games always had magical characters that had powers. Very mystical and, secretive. So what do the banana birds remind me of? Well, the Jinjos, right? The Jinjos in Banjo-Kazooie, how they're magical. And they're so magical and memorable that the mighty Jinjonator was the one that killed Gruntilda in the epic climactic conclusion to the original Banjo-Kazooie. So if you collect the banana birds in this game, you unlock secret stuff. That's just like how in Banjo-Kazooie, when you collect all the Jinjos, you get the Jiggy. To collect the banana birds, you have to go find these little secret caves. And when you go inside, you have to do like a Simon Says game where you have to match the colors. And the colors of the crystals just remind me of the colors of the Jinjos, you know? When you visit Wrinkly Kong in this game, she's playing the Nintendo 64. And you can hear a music track from Super Mario 64. Isn't that just amazing? Isn't that just mind-blowing? So you can see it sitting right there on the floor, and the glow of the TV, like it's tilted so that you can't see it yet. And Donkey Kong Country 3 was released around the same exact time when the Nintendo 64 launched. But I hate how people are so cynical about this game. People are like, oh, nobody wanted to play it. That's not true, though, because this game did sell a lot of copies. And come on, you got to give Nintendo 64 a break. It just came out. There was only like a few 1996 N64 games that were released. The N64 was like released in fucking November or some shit. So there was only a couple of games out. And the Super Nintendo still had life that was left in it. It was way too cynical how people were thinking at the time. But people at the time were just so damn hungry for 3D gaming. And I can't blame them. Because I'm kind of one of those people. I'm kind of that guy that thinks that 3D gaming is a little bit better than 2D gaming. But I still think that the 2D games, a lot of them were really amazing, though. It's like my mindset is still stuck in that 1990s mindset where I still want the 3D platformer. That's really what I still want. My mind hasn't left that amazement of that. And I hear people say, well, people weren't playing the Sega Genesis either in 1996. But that really isn't true. You know, Sonic 3D Blast came out also for the Sega Genesis in 1996. And that's probably, graphically, the most impressive 3D 16-bit game ever created. Other than that, another thing I have to give very high praise to Donkey Kong Country 3 is that it's the most graphically impressive Donkey Kong Country game on the Super Nintendo. In fact, to me, it's the most graphically impressive Super Nintendo game ever, just of all time. The graphics are more 3D. The levels are more beautiful. They're more gorgeous. They really look super detailed. They have way more detail in it than the first two titles. So that's something that Donkey Kong Country 3 should get a lot of high praise for. Anyway, this is my cool little video about the connections between Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong Country 3. Donkey Kong Country 3 is an amazing game from my childhood, and it's overlooked and it pisses me off. It's time for us to go back to the late 90s and remember how amazing Donkey Kong Country was, and not neglect the third title. I love Kiddy Kong. I have no problems with the character. I have zero clue why people hate this character. I always thought he was a charming kind of character. Please like and subscribe. Leave some comments. Let me know what you guys think. My name is SuperPat98, and join the conversation in the comments below. Anyway, have a fantastic week, guys. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Peace.